to Talking Art. I'm Arizona Lowe from Today's Visions, and with me, you've just viewed a bunch of beautiful art that was all done by Mark Myhaver, our guest today. Hi, Mark.
Hi. How you doing, Arizona?
I am wonderful today. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. As I said before we went live, it's been a good week. Been a fun week. Yeah.
What has made it? What's the best part of it since it's been such a great week?
Well, you know, it's just been a great week on social media, which we're both very much involved in, along with art and combining the two. The simple little things that happen sometimes that just are worth a lot. Gonna take a drink.
Okay. So how long have you been in the art profession?
All my life. Pretty much all my life. Whether I can say, as really as an artist, and that's still to be determined by other people.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be. Whether I succeed is up to other people. I first got a camera when I was 6 years old as a gift from an aunt, and I picked it up, never put it down. Me and my two older brothers each got the same camera. We each got one. It was a Diana, which interestingly I saw a few years back. It became a fad for people that got a hold of these, and it was something new to use this Diana because it was it's a dinosaur now, I mean, and I mean, we've gone so far in what we can get and capture. But anyway, they played with theirs a little bit, and that was it. It was another toy. To me, it changed my life. That was what I wanted to do from there on. I just loved taking photographs. Whether it was of people and family, and and I've got tons, someplace, film of pictures from family, and then I got into, I love nature, love the world we live in. I feel like I've been blessed to see the beauty in it, and been given this gift as a way to capture that and present it to other people too. And as I say, as a tagline on my website, photography is my passion. It's what I do. If I can put a smile on someone else's face and make them feel well, and get them as much enjoyment out of an image as I get in creating it, I've done what I'm here to do. I guess that's how I feel.
Now, I heard in there that your aunt.
An aunt, yes.
You pronounce it. See, I pronounce it aunt from the south. So where are you from?
An ant's a bug. Well, I am originally. I was born in Manchester, New Hampshire. I was transplanted against my will to Maine at the age of 5. So this was like a year before I got the camera. And I say transplanted against my will. I mean, we lived on a dairy farm. We had, so, my around me then for nature in my world was moogugs. Mm-hmm. Okay, those were cows. And at that point, I had a dog, which came out Gug, okay, to me. And, I mean, I think I got it when I was like 3, Peanut. Loved my dog, but it was a Gug, and these were bigger Gugs, so they were moogugs, and they weren't moos, they were moogugs. They were cows. That was my life, It was also an apple farm, so an apple orchard, and I had memories of going into the apple house where they made apple sauce, and all. It was great. Picked apples, milked a cow, before I can barely remember really, but I learned how to milk a cow.
How fun!
I rode a horse almost before I could walk. I mean, with somebody, but yeah, I had. There was a wonderful woman that I think she was a daughter of the people that actually owned the farm. My folks rented a house on this farm, and she took me horseback riding a lot of days while my 2 older brothers were in school, and it was great. So.
And when you transplanted to Maine, did all that end?
Yeah, a lot ended. It was a whole different. I mean, it was rural, it was country life, and I had to give up the dog. Was the biggest thing,
Ooh.
hardest thing for me. You know, I mean, this was my best friend, in addition to my two older brothers.
Wow.
And one of the hardest things I went through at that young age was to give up this dog. But my father was wise, and he just knew that, hey, this dog ran free on that farm. It helped corral the cows if they happened to get out of the fence or something, and it had freedom. We were moving to Portland, Maine, which was the biggest city in Portland, and still it was much smaller than it is today. And we moved to a small neighborhood in kind of I want to say the outskirts of Portland, not right in the city. So it was still, it wasn't. It was still a big adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
So
but that's where you started your art career, right?
Yeah. That's where I started, and I love Portland, and that whole neighborhood has changed a lot, and everything does. It's grown up. I mean, we had fields, we had baseball and football fields everywhere. Now, those are either mini, shopping malls or a lot of that is gone.
Mm-hmm.
But it was great. It was a very great neighborhood, a lot of kids, which I ended up loving. I ended up loving it there. When we finally ended up making, when I was about 11 or 12, we made another move, which was in the city, but actually still it was up on the Eastern Promenade, which overlooks Casco Bay. A beautiful, beautiful spot. And at that point, it's funny the changes you go through. A lot of my siblings were not wanting to make that move because we were leaving friends there and everything. And at that point, I was getting a little crazy already, I guess, in my life, and I looked at it as excitement. I heard, it's a much more populated area, and I was like, more people, more friends, great, and it did turn out that way. It was, it was a lot of fun, and it was a great place to live. My sister Andrea, God love her, has moved back to that area on Munjoy Hill, and has been president of the Munjoy Hill Neighborhood Association for quite a few years, and just watching a lot of changes take place there too. But yeah, that's so I don't know. We're getting off track here, which is easy for me to do. So pull me back in if you want.
Okay, I'm tugging.
Yeah.
So what was your first art-related job? Now I'm assuming this happened in Maine.
Yes. Believe it or not, I'm going to say my first photography job was, and yes, I guess we can call it art-related now. I don't know as I was quite at a point of being, artistic at that point. I guess I was trying to be. Yearbook photography in middle school. Now they call it middle school. We call it junior high school back then.
Right.
But I actually was one of the few people that decided we needed to have a yearbook, and they hadn't had one at that junior high school in a few years. And so we got together with the help of an English teacher and started the yearbook staff. And I was taking the photographs for the yearbook.
Do you still have the yearbook?
What's that?
Do you still have a copy of it?
I don't know where it is. I don't know. One of my ex-wives may have it.
Oh no!
A few. Yeah, I can remember what it looks like.
So
ironically, fast forward a little bit into high school, and the changes that I went through, some of which we talked a little about before when going live a little bit. But I started, like I said, I was very rebellious and also a thrill seeker. So I wasn't involved in the yearbook at all at Portland High School, where I went to high school. Not even in the yearbook. Never had my photo taken. Think about that. I figure that out. But yet, also consider, I've always been the photographer, never the photograph. They're very rarely the photograph. Okay.
Well, I'm the same way. I mean, the only pictures you have of me are stuck behind a camera.
Yes, and you know, a lot of times family will say, "But you're not in it," and I say, "Yes, I am." Every time you look at that photo, you look at who's behind the camera. You'll see me. So you know, how did Ansel Adams put it? Someone said something to him once about, but there are no people in these photos, and he said, "There's always at least two people. There's the photographer taking the photograph, and there's the person viewing the photo."
That's
so,
a really good point to remember.
Yeah.
What do you think about the trends? I mean, you've been in the art world through regular film, or the photography world through regular film, and now we're on digital. I'm assuming you're using digital.
Oh, absolutely. I started using digital. I started doing things digitally. Oh, back in the late '90s, before the capture was ready. I started scanning film and doing things digital. Very first version of Photoshop, excuse me. Very first version, I delved into it, and it was. It's been interesting. It's been an amazing transition.
What do you see in the trends of other photographers, or in the photography field itself with the advent of digital camera? Do you like it? Do you don't like it?
It's mixed, very mixed. I remember a good friend of mine who was a great photographer, did a lot of large format photography, you know, 8x10 cameras and things, and had a small lab that it still has in Massachusetts. And he said, you know, at the time, when capture was finally at the point where I jumped into it and started shooting, he said, you know, he said it is going to lower the bar. And you know, I right away I rebelled against that idea, and I said, you know, it doesn't have to go lower the bar. He was right. It has lowered the bar in many ways. It doesn't have to. There are things that have happened that have brought about lowering the bar. Let me tell you, I want to talk about the positives of digital a little bit, and then I'll tell you, you know, we'll get into what the bad that has come about from it, I guess, if you want to split it, the lowering the bar that's happened. One of the great things I saw about digital photography and what it did, the very same thing that Kodak did with film. It put photography in the hands of everyday people. Kodak came out with Instamatic cameras. You can insert a cartridge. You know, it didn't even have to know how to wind film onto a camera. It put it in the hands of everybody, and it's a great thing. I think it's a fantastic thing. What are we going to have? You know, what do people have later in life to show their grandkids and their grandkids and so forth of history? But photographs is a huge part of it. It's a huge part. So that's a great thing, and it also, to me, what I get out of photography, to let the everyday people be able to feel a bit of that. It's fantastic. You know, people start learning how to develop film and things like that. Digital did the same thing on a much bigger scale. Digital, and especially the way it's developed today, it's very easy for anybody to pick up a camera today, even on a phone, whether it be an iPhone or Android, whatever type, and get a good picture.
Wait a minute. You've got to define that. Define a good picture.
Well, I'm getting to that. I said a good picture. as opposed to a good or great photograph. To me, there's a difference. A good picture could simply be one that captures the moment, is exposed properly so that you can see what you're supposed to be seeing in that. Photography is all about capturing light. That's, what is there? I've got it in a blog someplace. The definition. There's a dictionary that gives photography, and it's basically is capturing light. Is what we're doing. So, to me, a good picture, is yes, it's one that it's obvious what the subject matter is. It's visible. You're able to see it and see it well. Unfortunately, this is the downside. What has happened is, and now Facebook is not going to like me for this because they're now the owner of Instagram. Okay, Instagram is. I'm gonna offend some people here. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, folks, but that's the way it is. It doesn't have to be this way either. But I have seen, and I don't do Instagram. My grandkids tell me all the time I'd be really popular on Instagram. I don't know. What I have seen on Instagram, I'm sorry, is a lot of poor images. They're not good pictures.
These are not images that people are trying to sell as art either.
No, they're not. No, they're not. But what's happened with it is there's funky filters and things that are part of Instagram. I'm sorry to keep beating on Instagram, but it's the biggest thing that comes to my mind when I see what has happened. It degrades photography. It degrades good photography. And again, it doesn't have to be, but it gets overused. There are effects and filters that are actually designed to be creative. But what they do is they take all the advances that I have seen made in 50 years of shooting photographs. We've gone from that little Diana camera with all its inferiorities and its lens and things like that to excellent lenses, excellent tools in a digital darkroom that to me far surpass what was available in a darkroom that I started processing film in.
Mm-hmm.
I could never get to where I can now with an image in a darkroom. Could never get that far. Ansel Adams, again, obviously someone that has been has inspired me. I think would love digital photography. I really do. But what's happened is that we get all these funky things that are out there that people add to the images and actually degrade the images. That again, taking the advances we made and setting them back. Some of them were designed to look like old photography.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but what happens is we've actually advanced photography. Why set it back?
What worries me on that is, especially with Instagram, and I'm going to pick on Instagram for a minute, this is what people are going to see because we're storing it, we're curating it. Instagram is nothing but this massive library of images.
Yeah.
And 100 years from now, people are going to judge our generation and our lifestyle by those photos.
That's exactly what bothers me, and they're also going to be, again, their grandchildren are going to say, well, some of them are going to say, well, this is what I looked like as a baby, and they're going to be looking at it, and I've seen this. I have seen people recently posting newborn pictures of their new children, their young children, and I look at it and I think, years from now, you're going to wish you took a lot better photo of that child, because it already looks faded.
Mm-hmm.
It's already it's very poorly lit. There's this new fad, it seems, in portraiture. I saw someone who was very, very popular on one of the, not Instagram, but another photography social site that is popular and is some fantastic photographers on it. I saw this one person that did a lot of, I'm going to call it portraiture because they do, had the potential to be some great photography. They all have this same strong side lighting that it just blows out one whole side of the image. Just totally blows it out so that, you know.
Do you think that's being achieved by the way he or she is doing the lighting, or is that being achieved by the processing of the image?
I think it's a mixture. I think it's gone from, it's become a fad from a processing and effect filter that's applied, again, that are available through Instagram and things. And it became kind of a faddish thing because I see it a lot now. Mm-hmm. So now it's actually, people are actually lighting that way. And it's like, I mean, I taught lighting. I taught portrait lighting. Okay. I learned a lot about it. I wanted to. When I was in the portrait photography business for quite a few years. My tagline there was, my best image is your best image. My whole thing aside to that was, I want to present people in the very best image of who they perceive or desire themselves to be. You can do a lot of that with light. Mm-hmm. I've had some magical moments with portraiture. I've had some magical moments in photography. Magical moments when you're shooting a photo, you're taking that, you're capturing that image, and you know you just, wow, you got it. Whether it's a landscape or a portrait, but the lighting's just right, the mood is just right. When I'm out I get in what I call the zone. I get in that zen moment out in nature when it tugs me. Nature just tugs me. I'll be shooting in one direction and loving it, and I just feel this tug turn me around, and there's another image right there that's just fantastic.
It's the wow factor.
It's the wow, and it's the wow factor twice. It's the wow when you do that, when you create that image, when you capture it. And 3 times really, to me. I'm all about processing. I'm very much about processing. Again, it goes back to when I processed it, you know, in the darkroom. Again, go to Ansel Adams again. This man, he knew about light. He learned about light. He knew what he was recording with light, and he knew how he was going to then take that and develop that in the darkroom. Mm-hmm. The zone system. People should learn what that zone system is all about. I still use it. I still use that zone system. There is variation on it, but it basically is the zone system. When again, you're capturing the light.
Okay, I'm going to make the suggestion. Maybe you should write about the zone system.
I know. In Arizona, that is a blog piece that I have been wanting to do. Again, you know, I don't know if you want to talk about today's visions here at all, about what's going on there. This is and what, you know, what I've been doing there and what, you know, I've stepped down from. I don't know. Do you want to go there?
I don't mind. I mean, you've already brought it up, so.
All right. Well, you know, I've loved curating for today's visions, and I was very humbled and gracious that you asked me and thought enough, I guess, of my eye, and maybe I think also it was part of the way I could relate to people. But
it was
everything. And I appreciate it.
It was, you know, when I was making my decisions for that first short list, when I went out and asked people to curate, it was a combination of your images and what your eye captured, It was partially the work that you chose to share was always top notch, to share on social media. And it was the fact that you were very engaging and I think you have a wonderful personality.
Well, thank you, thank you. I thank you so much. I've gotten it from other people. I guess I'm going to go back to the same thing I've said to you before. I try to be, if I'm successful at it, that is because of people like you. It's because of somebody else, not me. That's, it's got to reflect from other people.
Well,
I can get emotional easy. To go back onto what I was saying. I love doing those things. I love sharing other people's work as well. When I see something that grabs me, I love to share it. Mm-hmm. I love to give that person the exposure they should have. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent out there. The upside. It's I talked about lowering the bar. It is. The bar has been raised as well. There are people there with tremendous talent in capturing the light and then also in processing that. And I use the word process. I know most people today use the word post-processing. It's processing. I call it processing.
When I sit down with my images, I call it developing. I am developing my image.
It is, and I called developing processing back when I was developing. I mean, that's the way I learned it. But I know where the term post processing comes from too, and I understand. But it's the image is not finished when it's captured. That's what I feel. Now there's a lot of, I know there are a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Photographers that are very much feel differently than that. I know I've had conversation on Twitter with one a while back that felt very much that the only tool a photographer should need is a camera.
Yeah, I've run into those too.
We can get into a whole discussion on that. I mean, the camera also needs a lens. There's a lot of tools in that camera, and I'll get into that sometime in a blog. And that's what I want to do. So that's what I started to say. One of the things that, by curating in the time involved with doing that at today's Visions, that was taking away from other things I want to do, and that is, I have ideas in my head that I want to share with people, and I am not an expert. I don't think. I beware of people that say they are. That's how I feel. If someone else says they're an expert, if a few people start saying they're an expert, they probably are an expert. But that's up for somebody else to say. I don't consider myself an expert, but again, I've been using photography. I've been working with photography and learning photography for 50 years, and over 50 years, I think I've learned a few things, and I want to share those things. I'm passionate about it, and I want to share those things with other people. And when I talk about what I see that, is the downfall, what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be. Pay attention here. You can learn something. You're going to want those photos of your child. You're going to want your grandchildren to have photos of the child that really recognize that child and can see features in that child. We want a quality image. It's for posterity. It's images that are years down the road of what people are going to look at. Yes, as you said, that's what our society was and it has grown from, and what people actually look like,
Right.
I mean, that's changing all the time, It does change. It changes. I've changed what I look like, from, I mean, if you look at people are going to see this video and say, my goodness, the image that I have of me on my websites, in my profile, it was taken a few years ago. It was actually taken about 2 years, well, about 3 years ago now. It was in, what is this? This is 14. I have to stop and think. I mean, it was post 2012. It was in right this time of year. It was almost exactly November. It was of 2011. I took it for a few reasons. My mind wanders, and I think things. A lot of things happened in 2012 for me, and to my family, because of me or because of what happened to me. But I think at that point when I took that image, and I purposely took a few. I think I was at some of the probably best physical shape that I had been through my life. I was climbing in the mountains. I keep glancing up at a photo that is of mine of Catalina Mountains, and I used to climb in those mountains with a full pack of camera gear, something I cannot do now yet. May be able to do it again someday.
You'll get there. I have to rope you in again because we are almost out of time. And
oh no! See, there's never enough time, especially you get me talking about photography.
Yeah, and we were worried about whether or not we had enough to talk about.
I wasn't.
I want to know what's your #1 favorite piece of your stuff right now.
Of mine?
And then we're going to end this, and you're going to tell everybody where to find you.
Oh, really? Man, there's so much more. There's so much more.
I know.
I feel like I touched on things and didn't answer them correctly and or fully. I guess one of the very favorite pieces is one that I'll keep glancing up at. It is Storm Over the Catalinas. See if I got that name right. I have to stop and think. I'm going to look real quick in my. I'm looking at Lightroom in my library. Lightroom is a fantastic tool, folks. If you're into photography,
who puts it out?
Storm Over Catalinas. It's an Adobe program that I am given a little endorsement, not paid. I have no affiliations with them, but it's a fantastic tool. It is the darkroom of yesterday. I use it. So Storm Over the Catalinas is one of those images. There's storm mountains gathering over the tops of the mountains. Yet you see the green, lush vegetation of the Sonoran Desert in the foreground. That's one of them. There's so many. I mean, I have my own images there. There's so many that I love. I want to get back to Sedona. Sedona was a place that just grabbed me. Just, I felt I belonged there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, let's go ahead and tell everybody your website address. And you are going to be, well, by the time this video is all pieced together, you're on Today's Visions as a feature instead of a curator.
That's humbling. It's honoring. Like several people have said to me that I have featured. It is an honor. My website is myhaverphotography.com. You can find it myhaverphoto.com. is going to take you to the same place. Keep it simple if you want.
And Myhaver is spelled M-Y-H-A-V-E-R.
Myhaver. It's pronounced not your Haver, Myhaver. So what I tell people when they ask me, when I meet them, and they trip over the pronunciation at all.
And of course,
myhaverphotography.com, and you can also find me at myhaver.photography, and that is basically my print-on-demand website. Myhaverphotography.com is my main site that links to all the different options you have available to purchase my images, and I love it with you. I want to share one thing about why this was a great week. And I talked about, I think, 3 moments that are great with a photograph to me. I didn't mention the third one. The third is when somebody else views it and appreciates it. This week, when I posted one of the images that I posted before on Facebook, one of my followers, who actually is a friend of a friend probably, that followed me on Facebook, liked it and commented 4 words. You enlighten my life.
Wow.
Yes, wow. What do you say to that? I said, bless you. I said, bless you. That's all I ask.
So
that was $1 million. That, to me, I made $1 million, or well over, with that comment.
So I'm going to ask our listeners.
Revise them because it keeps me able to do it. So by all means, visit my site and
I'm going to invite all our listeners to visit Mark's site or visit the galleries.todaysvisions.com and see his feature. And let his work enlighten you.
What's that?
Amazing photographer.
If I can do that to one person, you know, it's to me, it's. We got a couple more minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know,
we're over our time, so.
I had that same kind of great feeling when I was in the portrait industry, if you want to call it industry, portrait profession, when I was a portrait photographer. Several times, many times, but it was always great when I can think of one in particular time when, and this was a portrait that I offered to do of this young woman. I had watched her, there's someone I saw almost daily, and I watched her go through some tough times and then focus on herself, really start getting fit and take care of herself. And I said to her one day, I said, I want to photograph you. Please let me come into my studio and photograph you. And I did. And she loved, I mean, I had at the time in my studio, I had a makeup artist that we did. She had actually worked at glamour shots, but what we did in my studio was not glamour shots. It was all designed to enhance the good points and play down the points, the parts of someone that they didn't care that much about. Again, the result being to present the very best image of who they desired or perceived themselves to be. So it's a good experience. So many things I want to say. I can go off because that makeup artist, Robin, was fantastic. I shared that makeup artist with another studio. One of my competitors, and this is how I feel about sharing and sharing in the business place. He was a good friend of mine. We were competitors, but between us, we were able to give this 40 hours a week, and it worked great. Now, back to this. So when I photographed this woman, I mean, it was a great experience for her then. When she came in and saw just her previews, and I laid them out, and she came in, and she went to tears. She's that's me, and she, wow, that's me, I can't believe, you know. And it just, what I get back from that is amazing. What I gave to her was a gift. that I'll never forget. You know, what I got back from it is a gift even more priceless. So
That's incredible.
I had experiences, you know, that I did a lot. I always had music playing in the studio. I worked with a lot of people where when it really was happening, we were in that zone, and that subject was in the zone with me. We did a lot without talking.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot through hand gestures. Them following my action, I could get them posing and get the reaction I wanted from them. I was very fortunate. This again back in maybe probably 1998, 99. I photographed a Afghani wedding. Never done this before. Very different ceremony and everything. The job was booked through an interpreter. The bride and groom didn't speak English. And so the interpreter was going to be there helping throughout the day. I said to her, I said, you know, I think you're going to find I don't need a lot of interpretation. And it was just a wonderful experience. Shooting that day, the day of their wedding, the formals, the candles are another thing, but the formals, she stood aside. That interpreter was out of the picture. We were communicating. We through eye contact, through expressions, we had a total oneness going on there, a total communication going on there. Got beautiful photos.
That's incredible.
There's a sad part to that story too, but I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, well, we are going to say goodbye for now.
Okay.
And we'll have another show hopefully in another week or two.
Okay.
So, Mark, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Arizona. And, you know, it's, like I say, you know, you talking photography stuff. It's obviously it's a passion, and I can go on and on, you know, and go on. And it's easy for me to go off in tangents because, you know.
Well, it's definitely, it is your passion in life.
And digital photography is fantastic. So I want to end with that. Yes, there are some downsides. I embraced it. I started shooting in 2000 and have never looked back. I have never shot film since then.
That is awesome. So everybody, we're going to say goodbye for now, and I invite you to go to todaysvisions.com. We have authors and artists and just a tremendous amount of indies being reviewed and present on our site. Mark Myhaver is myhaverphotography.com.
Correct.
Please visit his site or come see his feature on Today's Visions. He's just an incredible photographer. I feel very lucky and honored and blessed that he curated for Today's Visions for a while, and that he's a member of the community, and that I can also call him my friend. So, everybody.
Right back to you, my dear. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was a pleasure and a blessing to be able to do that.
So everybody have a great afternoon, and we will talk with you later.